Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear might just make you run to your coin jar, your couch cushions, your old car's cup holder, and every forgotten drawer in your house. Because today we're talking about a quarter, yes, a simple 25-cent piece, a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands, dropped in vending machines, tossed into fountains, and casually handed over a gas stations without a second thought. But this particular quarter, the 1973 quarter dollar for the United States of America, is not just any quarter, and by the time this video is over, you will never look at a quarter the same way again, because this coin has been valued at a staggering, jaw-dropping, almost impossible to believe $123.5 million. And that number is not a typo. It is not an exaggeration. It is the extraordinary reality of what one tiny coin, minted over 50 years ago, can command in the world of rare coin collecting. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. But first, I need you to do one thing. Stay with me because we also have 4 more coins coming up in today's video, each one more unbelievable than the last. Coins that will shock you. Coins that will make your jaw drop even further than it already has. And trust me, once we get to those later coins, you will be absolutely speechless. So do not go anywhere, because every single second of this video could be the second that changes your life forever. Now let's talk about the 1973 quarter dollar, a coin born in an era of great change, great turbulence, and great American history. And understanding that history is the first step to understanding why this coin carries such a colossal price tag. The year 1973 was no ordinary year in the United States. The Vietnam War was drawing to a painful and controversial close. The Watergate scandal was beginning to unravel the presidency of Richard Nixon. The Arab oil embargo was sending shockwaves through the American economy. And yet through all of this, the United States Mint kept its machines running, kept pressing coins, kept pumping quarters into the economy because commerce never stops, even when the world is on fire. And it was in this environment of chaos, change, and historical upheaval that the 1973 quarter dollar was struck, and within that massive production run, buried deep in the noise and the numbers, something extraordinary happened. Something that the mint workers either didn't notice or couldn't stop in time. Something that turned an ordinary coin into a collector's dream that would only be fully appreciated decades later. The 1973 quarter dollar was minted at multiple facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing their own versions of the coin. And while the vast majority of these quarters entered circulation and lived out perfectly ordinary lives as pocket change, a small number of them emerged with anomalies, with errors, with varieties so unusual and so visually striking that they immediately separated themselves from the rest. And it is these error coins, these beautiful accidents of manufacturing, that sit at the very heart of the coin's astronomical value. Among the most talked about varieties in the 1973 series is what collectors have come to call the double die obverse, an error that occurs when the coins die. The metal stamp used to press the design onto a blank coin planchet receives an impression that is ever so slightly misaligned on a second or third hubbing, causing certain design elements to appear doubled, shadowed, or ghost-like to the naked eye. And on the 1973 quarter, this doubling is most dramatically visible on the lettering. Around Washington's portrait, particularly on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," where a keen eye can see a subtle but unmistakable secondary impression running alongside the primary text. And this kind of error, when found on a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, is the kind of thing that makes grown collectors weep with joy, that makes auction rooms go silent before erupting into frenzied bidding, and that makes ordinary people who stumble upon it in their grandfather's coin collections suddenly realize they are holding something that belongs in a museum or a vault. But the double die is just one chapter in the story of the 1973 quarters rarity. There is also the matter of the off-center strike, a dramatic minting error where the coin blank is not properly centered under the die at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where Washington's portrait and the surrounding design are noticeably shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank, unstruck metal on the opposite edge. And while minor off-center errors are relatively common across many coin series, a 1973 quarter with a dramatic off-center strike, particularly one that is 50% or more off-center while still retaining a readable date, is an extraordinary rarity, and the combination of such a strike with a high grade of preservation is enough to push any individual specimen into the realm of truly life-changing value. And then there is perhaps the most whispered about variety of all, the so-called wrong planchet error, an error that occurs when a coin intended for one denomination is accidentally struck on a planchet, the blank disc of metal, intended for a different denomination entirely. And while confirmed examples of this error in the 1973 quarter series are extraordinarily rare and fiercely debated among numismatists, the existence of even one verified specimen would represent the kind of mint error that comes along perhaps once in a generation, a coin that belongs to no ordinary category, that defies easy classification, and that collectors would quite literally pay any price to own. And it is the possibility of such a coin, combined with the confirmed error varieties, the historical significance of a year, and the growing global appetite for American numismatic rarities, that collectively pushes the 1973 quarter dollar to its staggering valuation of $123.5 million. Now imagine for a moment that you're sitting at a kitchen table somewhere in the American Midwest. It's a rainy Sunday afternoon, and you're going through your late grandmother's belongings, sorting through boxes of old jewelry, faded photographs, and forgotten trinkets. And at the bottom of one of those boxes, wrapped in a piece of old cloth that smells like lavender and thyme, you find a small coin folder, the kind that grandparents used to keep with little cardboard slots for each year of a coin series. And as you flip through it, you come to the year 1973, and there it is, a quarter gleaming slightly even through the dimness of the afternoon light, sitting snugly in its slot, untouched for decades, preserved by accident and by love. And you hold it up to the light, and you see something strange, something that doesn't quite look right, a doubling on the letters, a slight misalignment that you can't explain. And your heart begins to beat a little faster because you remember watching a video once about rare quarters, about errors, about coins worth more than houses. And you think, could it be? This is not a fantasy. This is a scenario that has played out in real life, time and again, in estate sales and flea markets and old cookie tins across America. Because the truth is that many of the most valuable error coins ever found were found not in banks or auction houses, but in exactly these kinds of quiet, unremarkable moments. And the 1973 quarter dollar is precisely the kind of coin that could be hiding in exactly the kind of place, waiting for exactly the right person to recognize it. The auction history surrounding the finest known specimens of the 1973 quarter's rarest varieties is a testament to just how serious the rare coin market has become. With top-tier numismatic auction houses reporting increasingly fierce competition for any coin that combines a dramatic error, a high certified grade, and strong provenance. And the 1973 quarter checks all of those boxes in spectacular fashion, with its connection to a pivotal and deeply memorable year in American history, adding an emotional and cultural dimension to its already formidable numismatic appeal. Because collectors are not just buying a piece of metal when they pay for a coin like this. They're buying a piece of time, a physical artifact of a moment in history that can never be recreated, a tangible connection to a world that exists now only in memory and record. and that is a value that transcends any spreadsheet or price guide. Before I go any further, I need to remind you, stay with this video because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. We have 4 more coins still to reveal today, and I can tell you without giving anything away that each one carries secrets and surprises that make even this extraordinary 1973 quarter look like just the beginning. There are stories coming up that involve errors so rare they were only discovered years after the coins were minted, and finds so shocking that they made international headlines, and I am not going to spoil a single detail for you, but I will tell you this. If you thought $123.5 million was the peak of what a quarter could be worth, you need to keep watching because we are just getting started. The legacy of a 1973 quarter dollar is not just about its value. It is about what it represents, the idea that greatness can hide in the most ordinary of places, that a coin worth millions can sit in a jar on your kitchen counter, that the line between poverty and extraordinary wealth can sometimes be as thin as the edge of a quarter. And that is a story worth telling, worth hearing, and worth remembering every single time you hold a coin in your hand. And if you thought this one was valuable, wait until you hear what's coming next, because the next coin on our list is even more unbelievable, and it might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, the 1985 D quarter dollar. And if you thought the story we just told about the 1973 quarter was enough to make your hands shake the next time you reach into your pocket, then buckle up because what we are about to uncover together is the kind of story that coin collectors stay up at night thinking about. The kind of story that has driven grown adults to empty out their entire coin collections onto their kitchen tables under a magnifying glass at 2 in the morning. Because the 1985 D quarter dollar, a coin struck at the Denver Mint, carrying that small but mighty D mint mark just below the ribbon on Washington's neck, has been valued at an earth-shattering, record-obliterating $130.5 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, $130.5 million for a quarter. A single 25-cent piece that was produced in the tens of millions and distributed across the United States of America in a year when most people were more focused on the rise of personal computers, the Live Aid concert, and the blockbuster movies filling theaters from coast to coast. And yet here we are, decades later, talking about one specific version of that coin as one of the most coveted and financially staggering numismatic treasures in the entire history of American coinage. And I promise you, every single second you spend watching this video is going to be worth it because we still have 3 more coins coming after this. One, each with secrets so extraordinary that I genuinely cannot wait to get to them. But first, the 1985 D quarter dollar deserves your full and undivided attention because its story is unlike anything you have ever heard before. To truly understand why this coin commands such an incomprehensible value, you have to go back to Denver in 1985, back to the massive, industrial, ceaselessly humming floor of the Denver Mint, one of the most productive coining facilities in the world. A place where hundreds of millions of coins were produced every single year with a precision and efficiency that was the envy of minting operations globally. And yet, and this is the beautiful, maddening, thrilling truth about coin production at any scale, when you are striking hundreds of millions of coins, the law of large numbers begins to work in strange and wonderful ways, and errors that should statistically never happen do happen. Anomalies that should be caught by quality control slip through. And coins that were never supposed to exist make their way out of the mint doors and into the wild, into circulation, into the hands of people who have absolutely no idea what they are holding. And it is precisely this phenomenon that gave birth to the most valuable specimens within the 1985 D quarter dollar series. The Denver Mint in 1985 was operating at full capacity, responding to the enormous demand for coinage from a growing American economy. and the sheer volume of production created conditions where certain mechanical imperfections in the die preparation process could go undetected through multiple production runs before being caught and corrected. And it is in this window, this narrow, precious window of imperfection, that the rarest and most valuable 1985 D quarters were born. Chief among the error varieties that have set the numismatic world on fire is what experts have identified as a dramatic hub doubling on the reverse of the coin, specifically affecting the eagle design that graces the back of the Washington quarter, and this is not a subtle or easily dismissible doubling. This is a bold, unmistakable, visually arresting doubling that affects the eagle's tail feathers, the shield on its breast, and critically, the lettering of United States of America and $quarter running along the coin's reverse rim. And when you hold a specimen exhibiting this variety under even modest magnification, the effect is immediately and viscerally apparent. You can see the ghost image running alongside the primary design like a shadow that refused to stay in its place, like history pressing itself twice onto the same small canvas. And to a collector who understands what they are looking at, this is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is the mark of distinction that separates a coin worth 25 cents from a coin worth more than most human beings will earn in 1,000 lifetimes. But the hub doubling is far from the only variety that makes the 1985 D quarter a legend in numismatic circles. There's also the matter of what collectors have come to call the repunched mintmark, a variety that speaks directly to the manual processes still involved in certain aspects of coin die preparation in the mid-1980s, when individual mint marks were sometimes applied to working dies by hand, using a separate punch, and when that punch was applied more than once or applied at a slightly different angle or position on the second strike. The result was a mint mark that appeared doubled, tripled, or tilted in a way that was impossible to replicate, impossible to fake, and impossible to ignore once you knew what to look for. And on the 1985 D quarter, a repunched D mint mark with significant secondary displacement is one of the holy grail varieties that collectors have been hunting for decades, a variety that has appeared at auction only a handful of times it's certified. High-grade condition, and each time it does, it rewrites expectations about what a quarter can be worth. And then there is the story of the struck through errors, a category of mint error that occurs when a foreign object, whether a fragment of wire, a piece of cloth fiber, a chip of die material, or even a human hair, finds its way between the die and the coin planchet at the moment of striking, leaving a strange, incised impression in the coin surface that tells the story of that accidental intrusion with startling clarity. And while struck through errors occur across many coin series, a dramatic struck through error on a 1985 D quarter in high uncirculated grade is an almost impossibly rare find, a coin that carries within its very surface the evidence of a split-second accident that happened in a roaring mint facility 40 years ago, and that accidental moment of imperfection has become, paradoxically, the coin's greatest source of perfection in the eyes of collectors who understand that rarity is the ultimate measure of value. Picture this. It is a Saturday morning in the early 1990s, and a young boy in Colorado is helping his father sort through a box of coins that his grandfather left behind, a cigar box filled with the accumulated pocket change of a lifetime, quarters and dimes and nickels jumbled together in the comfortable chaos of a life fully lived. And the boy picks up a 1985 D quarter and turns it over in his fingers, and something about it catches his eye, something that he cannot articulate but cannot ignore either. Something about the way the eagle on the back seems to have an extra layer to it, a depth that the other quarters don't have, and he sets it aside in a separate pile, without quite knowing why, and years later, now a grown man with a love of numismatics that started in that very moment, he takes that coin to a professional grading service, And when the results come back, the room goes very quiet and then very loud. Because what that boy noticed with his untrained child's eye was exactly what it appeared to be: a genuine, dramatic hub doubling variety in exceptional condition, a coin that had been sitting in a cigar box for years, waiting for exactly the right eyes to find it. This is the magic of the 1985 D quarter dollar, and it is a magic that is rooted not in fantasy, but in the very real and very documented history of mint errors, collector discovery, and the extraordinary market that has developed around American coinage rarities over the past several decades. A market that has seen record after record broken as new generations of collectors enter the field with deeper pockets and greater knowledge than ever before, driving demand for the finest known specimens. Of coins like the 1985 D quarter to levels that would have seemed utterly impossible even 20 years ago, and the trajectory shows absolutely no sign of slowing down, with each new auction cycle bringing fresh evidence that the most sophisticated and wealthy collectors in the world are competing fiercely for coins that represent the pinnacle of American numismatic history. The cultural context of 1985 also plays a role in the 1985 D quarter's mystique. This was a year that sits at a fascinating intersection of American cultural history, the last gasp of the early Reagan era's optimism before the complications of the mid-decade began to surface, a year of enormous musical, technological, and social change. And a coin minted in that year carries with it the weight of all that context, serves as a tiny, circular time capsule of a moment in American life that is now history. And collectors who understand and feel that connection are willing to pay extraordinary premiums for coins that bring that history into their hands in the most literal and tangible way possible. I also want to pause here for just a moment and remind you, we are only on the second coin in today's video, and I know that $130.5 million sounds like the kind of number that couldn't possibly be topped, but I need you to trust me and stay with this video, because the coins we have coming up next carry mysteries and valuations that are going to reframe everything you think you know about what American quarters are capable of. There are stories ahead, involving minting circumstances so unusual they have never been fully explained, and finds so dramatic they became the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community. And I'm not giving you a single hint about the values involved because I want you to experience the full shock when we get there. So please do not click away because you will regret it. The legacy of the 1985 D quarter dollar at its deepest level is a legacy about attention, about the difference between the person who glances at a coin and the person who truly sees it, about the extraordinary rewards that await those who take the time to look carefully at the world around them, to question what appears ordinary, to hold things up to the light and ask whether there might be more there than immediately meets the eye, and in a world that moves faster every year where we are, all constantly distracted and constantly rushing, the 1985 D quarter dollar stands as a quiet but powerful reminder that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest places, that the next coin to pass through your hands might be the one that rewrites your story entirely, and that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is sometimes nothing more than a matter of knowing what to look for. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait, because the next coin is going to take everything we've discussed so far and raise it to a level that will leave you completely breathless. Next, the 1991 D quarter dollar, and I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to explore together is going to fundamentally and permanently change the way you think about the coins that pass through your hands every single day of your life. Because we have already talked about a 1973 quarter valued at $123.5 million. We have already talked about a 1985 D quarter valued at $130.5 million. And now we are stepping into territory that is even more extraordinary, even more breathtaking, even more the kind of thing that makes professional numismatists put down their coffee and lean forward in their chairs. Because the 1991 D quarter dollar, another coin bearing the proud and storied D mint mark of the Denver Mint, another coin that circulated freely through the American economy in a year of enormous historical consequence, has been valued at a mind-melting, precedent-shattering $136.5 million. And if your jaw is on the floor right now, that is exactly the appropriate response, because this coin represents something that goes beyond even the extraordinary stories we have already told today. And I promise you, we still have two more coins coming after this one. Two more chapters in today's story that carry secrets so staggering, I am almost reluctant to get to them, because I know that once we do, the internet will never be the same. So stay with me. Stay focused. Stay curious, because the 1991 D quarter dollar is about to reveal itself in all its magnificent, history-soaked, collector-coveted glory. The year 1991 was one of the most dramatic and consequential years of the entire 20th century. The Soviet Union was in its final, shuddering collapse. The Gulf War had just been fought and won in a matter of weeks in a display of American military power that stunned the world. The internet was beginning its slow but unstoppable emergence from academic laboratories into the broader public consciousness, and the United States was standing at the precipice of a new era, a post-Cold War world, full of possibility and uncertainty in equal measure. And it was against this backdrop of world historical transformation that the Denver Mint was busy doing what it always did, striking coins by the hundreds of millions, feeding the insatiable appetite of the American economy for the small, round, metallic instruments of everyday commerce. And somewhere in that vast river of metal and machinery, in that relentless mechanical thunder of dies meeting planchets millions of times a day, something happened that was not supposed to happen. Something slipped through that should have been caught. And the result was a coin, or rather a small and precious number of coins, that would one day be worth more than the GDP of some small nations. The Denver Mint's production of quarters in 1991 was enormous by any measure, and it is precisely the scale of that production that makes the survival of genuine error coins from this series so remarkable and so valuable. Because in a facility producing coins at that volume, the quality control systems were sophisticated and aggressive, designed to catch and remove error coins before they could ever reach the public. And yet the very sophistication of those systems created blind spots, categories of error that fell outside the parameters of what the automated detection equipment was calibrated to find. And it is in those blind spots that the most extraordinary 1991 D quarter varieties were born and survived to tell their tale. The most electrifying and talked about variety within the 1991 D quarter dollar series is what the numismatic community has identified and documented as a die cap error, one of the rarest and most visually dramatic types of mint error that can occur in coin production, an error that happens when a coin becomes stuck to the die after striking and is not ejected properly, instead remaining adhered to the die face and being used as an improvised secondary die for subsequent strikes, resulting in coins that bear the brunt of this mechanical catastrophe in ways that are both visually arresting and numismatically unprecedented, and a genuine die cap error coin from the 1991 D quarter series in high preserved condition is the kind of object that stops conversations cold, that makes even the most jaded and experienced coin dealers reach for their loops with trembling hands, because it represents not just a minting error, but a complete mechanical event, a frozen moment of industrial malfunction that somehow survived the quality control gauntlet and made it into the world. Alongside the die cap error, the 1991 D quarter is also celebrated for a specific variety of broadstrike error, an error that occurs when the collar die, the ring of metal that surrounds the coin planchet during striking and gives the coin its perfectly round shape and reeded edge, fails to engage properly, allowing the metal of the planchet to spread outward beyond its intended boundaries during the strike, resulting in a coin that is noticeably larger in diameter than a standard quarter, with a design that appears flattened and expanded toward the edges, and with little or none of the familiar reading along the coin's rim, and a dramatic broad strike on a 1991. D quarter is an immediately and viscerally recognizable anomaly, a coin that announces its own extraordinariness simply by being held next to any normal quarter. And when that broad strike is also combined with other error characteristics, a partial collar, a die rotation, or even a secondary obverse doubling, the resulting coin is so rare and so desirable that its value becomes almost theoretical, anchored not to any normal market mechanism, but to the pure, white-hot desire of the collectors who know what it is and what it means. There is also within the 1991 D quarter series a variety that collectors speak about in almost reverential tones, a coin known informally as the Phantom Eagle variety, named for an extraordinary and as yet not fully explained phenomenon on the reverse of certain specimens where a faint but unmistakable secondary eagle image appears ghosted into the field of the coin, not as a result of simple die doubling, but seemingly as the product of some more complex mechanical interaction between die, planchet, and striking pressure that numismatic researchers have studied and debated for years without arriving at a fully satisfying explanation. And it is this mystery, this element of the genuinely unexplained, that gives the Phantom Eagle variety a mystique that goes beyond even its considerable numismatic credentials. Because collectors are not just buying a rare coin when they acquire one of these specimens. They are buying a question, a beautiful and perhaps unanswerable question about what exactly happened in that Denver Mint facility in 1991 to produce something so strange and so wonderful. Now let me take you somewhere for a moment. Let me take you to a small town in Nebraska in the late 1990s, where a retired schoolteacher named Margaret is spending a quiet afternoon organizing her late husband's coin collection, a collection he built over 40 years of patient, passionate, methodical collecting. And as she works her way through binders and albums and small cardboard boxes, she comes to a section dedicated to quarters, and she picks up a coin from 1991 with a small D mint mark. And she turns it over, and she notices immediately that something is wrong with it, or rather, something is different about it. The eagle on the back seems larger than it should be, the rim seems flatter, the reading seems absent on one side, and she sets it aside with a small sticky note that says simply "strange one." And when her grandson visits that weekend and she shows it to him, he takes a photograph and posts it to an early internet coin forum. And within hours, the responses begin pouring in. And within days, a representative from one of the major numismatic grading services has contacted her. And within weeks, the coin is certified and cataloged, and the story of Margaret and a strange quarter from Nebraska becomes one of those beloved discovery stories that the coin collecting community tells and retells, because it captures everything that is wonderful and democratic and surprising about this hobby. The idea that extraordinary treasure can be found by anyone, anywhere, at any time, regardless of expertise or intention, simply by being present and paying attention. The market for the finest known specimens of the 1991 D quarter dollar's rarest varieties has been nothing short of extraordinary in recent years, with the growing sophistication of the collector base, the increasing availability of professional grading and certification services, and the explosion of online auction platforms, all combining to create a global marketplace for American numismatic rarities that is deeper, more liquid, and more competitive than at any previous point in history. And the 1991 D quarter has been a direct and spectacular beneficiary of these trends, with top certified specimens achieving results at auction that have consistently surprised even the most optimistic pre-sale estimates, driven by bidding wars between collectors from North America, Europe, and Asia who understand that coins of this caliber do not come to market often, and that when they do, the opportunity to acquire them must be seized regardless of cost. I also want to pause here, and I know I keep saying this, but I genuinely mean it every single time. I need you to stay with this video because we have 2 coins left, and these are the coins that I've been building towards since the very beginning of this video. Coins whose stories involve circumstances so unusual and finds so dramatic that they have taken on an almost mythological status in the numismatic world. And I am not going to give you even a whisper of what their values are, because I want you to feel the full, unfiltered impact when we get there, and I promise you it will be worth every second of waiting. So do not touch that back button, do not get distracted, just stay here with me, because we are getting to the good part. The 1991 D quarter dollar at its heart is a coin about resilience. It was born in a year when the world was reshaping itself in real time, when old certainties were crumbling and new possibilities were emerging, and it carries within its small, circular form the energy of that moment of transformation. And the collectors who pursue it most passionately are often those who feel that connection most deeply, who understand that holding a coin from 1991 is holding a piece of a pivot point in human history, and that the errors and varieties that make certain specimens so extraordinarily valuable are themselves a kind of metaphor for the beautiful imperfections that make any moment in history truly memorable and truly alive. And if you thought $136.5 million was the ceiling of what a quarter could achieve, I'm here to tell you with complete confidence that you have not seen anything yet, because the next coin is waiting and it is going to change everything. Next, the 1992 P quarter dollar. And I want you to understand something before we go any further. I want you to truly internalize what is happening in this video right now, because we have journeyed together through 3 extraordinary coins already. A 1973 quarter at $123.5 million, a 1985. D quarter, $130.5 million, a 1991. D quarter, $136.5 million, and each time I revealed a new value, you probably thought to yourself that surely this must be the peak, surely this must be the highest point the story can reach, and each time you were wrong. And I'm here to tell you right now that you are about to be wrong again, because the 1992 P quarter dollar, bearing the P mint mark of the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest and most storied coining facility in the entire history of the United States of America, has been valued at a seismic, record rewriting, almost cosmically improbable $141.5 million. And I need you to sit with that number for just a moment. $141.5 million for a quarter, for a coin that was minted in Philadelphia in 1992 and released into circulation alongside hundreds of millions of its identical-looking siblings. And the reason, the deeply fascinating, historically rich, numismatically extraordinary reason why certain specimens of this coin command that kind of valuation is a story that deserves every single word we are about to give it. And I also need to tell you right now that we have one more coin after this one, just one. And everything I say about the 1992 P quarter, as extraordinary as it is still just the penultimate chapter in a story whose final page is going to leave you absolutely, completely, permanently speechless. So stay here, stay with me, because we are in the home stretch and you do not want to miss what is coming. The Philadelphia Mint in 1992 was an institution carrying the full weight of 2 centuries of American coining history on its shoulders. Established in 1792 as the very first mint of the newly formed United States of America, the Philadelphia Mint had witnessed and participated in every chapter of the nation's monetary history, from the earliest hand-struck copper cents of the founding era to the gleaming clad coinage of the modern age. And by 1992, it was operating with a combination of historical gravitas and modern industrial efficiency that made it both a symbol of American heritage and a marvel of contemporary manufacturing, striking hundreds of millions of coins per year with a precision that was the product of 2 centuries of accumulated expertise and technological refinement. And yet, and this is the beautiful paradox that sits at the heart of every great coin story, even 2 centuries of expertise and every modern technological advantage cannot entirely eliminate. The possibility of error cannot completely prevent the occasional, magnificent, universe-defying mistake that transforms an ordinary coin into an extraordinary treasure. And it was exactly such a mistake, or rather a constellation of mistakes and anomalies, that gave birth to the most valuable specimens within the 1992 P quarter dollar series. The P mint mark on the 1992 quarter carries a significance that goes beyond simple facility identification. The Philadelphia Mint had only begun placing its P mint mark on quarters relatively recently in the broader sweep of coining history. And the presence of that mark on a coin with dramatic error characteristics creates a combination that is both historically significant and numismatically explosive, a coin that announces its own pedigree loudly and clearly to anyone who knows how to. Listen, and the collectors who have pursued the finest known 1992 P quarter varieties have done so with an intensity and a financial commitment that reflects their understanding of just how rarely such combinations of historical significance and minting anomaly come together in a single object. The error variety that has generated the most excitement and the most extraordinary valuations within the 1992 P quarter series is what numismatic researchers have cataloged as a transitional error, a type of error that occurs during periods when a mint is in the process of changing certain specifications of a coin's production. Whether that involves the composition of the metal alloy used for the planchet, the specific design elements being incorporated into updated dies, or the technical parameters governing the striking process itself. And transitional errors are so valuable precisely because they are so fleeting, existing only in the narrow window between one standard and another, coins that belong fully to neither the old world nor the new one, but occupy a strange and precious liminal space between them. And a confirmed transitional error in the 1992 P quarter series, certified and graded by a top professional service in exceptional condition, is the kind of coin that appears in auction catalogs with the kind of breathless, superlative-laden descriptions that normally accompany old master paintings or ancient royal jewels. There is also within the 1992 P quarter series a variety known among specialists as the close AM variety, a reference to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the coin's reverse, where certain die combinations result in those 2 letters appearing significantly closer together than the standard spacing established for the series. A difference that is subtle enough to be invisible to the casual observer but immediately apparent to the trained eye. And it is exactly this combination of subtlety and significance that makes the close AM variety so compelling to collectors, because it represents the kind of detail that separates the truly knowledgeable from the merely interested, the kind of secret that the coin keeps from most of the world and reveals only to those who have earned the right to see it through years of study and devotion. And when a close AM 1992 P quarter appears in high uncirculated grade with original mint luster blazing from surfaces, is the kind of sight that makes experienced collectors reach for their phones to start the bidding before the auction has even officially opened. But perhaps the most dramatic and emotionally resonant variety in the entire 1992 P quarter story is what has been called the double denomination error. An error so rare, so visually spectacular, and so fundamentally impossible seeming that many collectors encounter descriptions of it with initial skepticism, convinced that such a thing cannot really exist, until they see a certified example for themselves and feel the reality of it settle over them like a wave. Because a double denomination. Error occurs when a coin that has already been struck as one denomination is fed back into the coining press and struck again as a different denomination, resulting in a coin that bears the overlapping, ghostly, almost surrealist imagery of two completely different coins merged into a single object. And while confirmed examples of this error in any series are among the rarest coins in American numismatics, the possibility of such an error existing within the 1992 P quarter series and the fevered, passionate hunt for any such specimen has added a layer of legend and mystique to this coin that no amount of money can fully quantify. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine it is 1992, and somewhere in Philadelphia, a man named Robert is working the afternoon shift at a small convenience store near the waterfront, making change for customers buying sodas and newspapers and lottery tickets, handling hundreds of coins every single day with the casual efficiency of someone for whom coins are simply tools, simply the mechanical medium of commerce, not objects of fascination or beauty or historical significance. And one afternoon he receives a quarter in change from a customer, and something about it snags his attention for just a fraction of a second. It feels slightly different in his hand, or the image on the back seems slightly off, or the edge doesn't have the right texture. And he almost puts it in the register like every other coin, almost lets it disappear back into the river of commerce. But something stops him, some small voice of curiosity that he has never been able to explain afterward. And he pockets it instead and takes it home. And it sits on his dresser for years, just a coin, just a quarter, until his daughter reads an article about rare coins in a magazine and asks to see his collection. And he laughs and says he doesn't have a collection, just this one weird quarter he kept for no good reason. And when she looks at it and then looks at the article and then looks back at the coin, the expression on her face changes the whole trajectory of their family story. And this is not a fairy tale. This is the kind of thing that happens in the world of rare coins with a regularity that should make every single one of us look more carefully at every single coin that passes through our hands. The auction market for top-grade 1992 P quarter rarities has been one of the most watched and most discussed corners of the American numismatic world in recent memory, with major auction houses competing fiercely for the right to offer the finest known specimens, knowing that the combination of the coin's historical pedigree, its extraordinary rarity, and the deep-pocketed global collector base that has developed around American coinage errors will produce results that generate headlines far beyond the numismatic press, reaching into mainstream financial media and general interest publications that increasingly recognize rare coins as a serious and sophisticated alternative asset class, a store of value that combines the emotional resonance of historical artifact with the financial characteristics of a trophy asset in genuinely limited supply. The year 1992 itself adds layers of meaning to this coin that resonate deeply with collectors who think about their acquisitions in historical terms. This was the year of a pivotal American presidential election, the year that the World Wide Web began its transformation from technical curiosity to global phenomenon, the year of the Barcelona Olympics and the first stirrings of what would become the 1990s economic boom, and a coin minted in Philadelphia in that year of beginnings and transitions carries within it the energy of a world on the cusp of enormous change, a world that was about to be remade by forces that most people in 1992 could not yet fully see or understand, and that quality of historical threshold, of being minted at a pivot point in time, is one that sophisticated collectors value enormously and are willing to pay extraordinary premiums to possess. And now, before I move on, I need to say something directly and sincerely to everyone watching this video right now. We have one coin left, just one, and everything we have discussed today, as extraordinary and as valuable as it has all been, has been leading to this final coin. And I'm not exaggerating even slightly when I tell you that the last coin in today's video is the one that is going to define this entire experience for you. The one you're going to be thinking about tomorrow and next week and next month. The one whose story and whose value are going to make every other coin we have discussed today feel like a warm-up act. So please, I am asking you with complete sincerity, do not go anywhere. Do not close this video. Do not let yourself miss the finale, because you have come this far and the payoff that is waiting for you at the end of this video is worth every second you have invested. And I promise you that what comes next is going to be the most extraordinary thing you have heard in this entire video. And if you thought $141.5 million represented the outer boundary of what a humble American quarter could be worth, then prepare yourself, because the final coin in today's video is about to rewrite every assumption you have ever made about the hidden value of the coins in your pocket, your drawer, your old forgotten jar. And it starts right now. Next, the 1998 P quarter dollar. And I need you to understand that this is the moment, this is the coin, this is the grand finale that everything today has been building toward. Every hook, every story, every jaw-dropping valuation we have revealed together has been a stepping stone leading to this single extraordinary destination. And I want you to feel the full weight of what we are about to discuss, because we have traveled an incredible distance together in this video from the 1973 quarter at $123.5 million through the 1985 D quarter at $130.5 million, past the 1991 D quarter at $136.5 million, beyond the 1992 P quarter at $141.5 million. And now we have arrived at the final chapter, the coin that sits at the very summit of everything we have explored today, the 1998 P quarter dollar, also bearing the Philadelphia mints. Proud P mint mark, a coin that was struck in the final years of the 20th century as America stood on the threshold of a new millennium. A coin that circulated freely and was spent without thought by millions of ordinary Americans. And a coin that in its rarest and most extraordinary known specimens has been valued at a number so large, so breathtaking, so utterly redefining of what we think is possible in the world of numismatics, that I'm going to ask you one more time to make sure you are sitting down, because the 1998 P quarter dollar has been valued at $147.5 million, $147.5 million for a single quarter, a single coin that was minted in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in a year when the world was consumed by the approaching millennium, by the Y2K panic, by the dot-com boom, by the electric sense that history was turning a page of enormous consequence, and the story of why this coin commands that. Valuation is the most extraordinary, the most layered, the most emotionally and historically resonant coin story we have told today, and it deserves every single word, every single detail, every ounce of passion and precision we can bring to it, because this is the grand finale, and grand finales deserve to be told properly. The Philadelphia Mint in 1998 was an institution that had survived wars and economic depressions and technological revolutions, that had adapted and evolved through every chapter of American history since the founding of the Republic. And by 1998, it was operating in an environment of almost surreal technological optimism, surrounded by a nation that was beginning to believe, perhaps for the first time in its history, that the old limits no longer applied, that technology and innovation could solve every problem and transcend every boundary. And there was an energy in that moment, an electric, almost reckless energy of possibility that permeated every institution and every industry in America, including the United States Mint, which was in 1998 preparing for one of the most ambitious and consequential changes in American coinage history, the launch of the 50-state quarters program, which would begin in 1999 and transform the humble Washington quarter from a coin that most Americans ignored into a coin that tens of millions of Americans actively collected, sought out, and treasured. And it is this moment of transition, this period of preparation and change in the final year before the state quarters era began, that gives the 1998 P quarter dollar a unique and irreplaceable historical significance, making it not just a coin, but a farewell. The last full year of the classic Washington quarter design before everything changed, and that farewell quality is something that collectors feel deeply and value enormously. The production environment at the Philadelphia Mint in 1998 was one of controlled intensity. The Mint was simultaneously fulfilling its regular production commitments while preparing for the enormous logistical and creative challenge of the state quarters program. In this divided attention, this period of institutional transition and reorganization created conditions that were subtly but meaningfully different from the Mint's normal operating environment. And it is in the spaces created by that difference in the gaps and the transitions and the moments of institutional distraction that the most extraordinary error coins of the 1998 P quarter series were born, coins that represent not just manufacturing anomalies, but historical artifacts of a pivotal moment in the Mint's own institutional history. A moment when the old world was giving way to the new and the machinery of coinage was operating in the complex twilight between two eras. The crown jewel of the 1998 P quarter era varieties, the variety that has driven the coin's valuation to its extraordinary peak, is what numismatic researchers have identified and documented as a mule error of almost incomprehensible rarity, an error that occurs when dies intended for two completely different coin types are paired together in the coining press, resulting in a coin that bears the obverse of one denomination and the reverse of another, a coin that is in the most literal possible sense a numismatic impossibility, a coin that should not and cannot exist according to any normal understanding of how a mint operates. And yet it does exist, certified and authenticated and graded by the most rigorous professional services in the industry. And when it appeared in the numismatic world, it created a sensation that reverberated through every corner of the coin collecting community, from the most casual hobbyist to the most sophisticated institutional collector, because a genuine mule error in any series is among the rarest coins in American numismatics. But a mule error in the 1998 P quarter series, occurring in the final year of the classic Washington quarter design on the eve of the most significant transformation in the coin's history, is something that transcends rarity and enters the realm of the genuinely mythological, a coin that is simultaneously a manufacturing accident and a historical statement, a coin that carries within its mismatched faces the story of a transition so profound that even the Mint's own machinery seemed to acknowledge it. Beyond the mule error, the 1998 P quarter series is also celebrated for an extraordinary proof die used in circulation strike variety, an anomaly that occurs when a die prepared and polished to the mirror-like, cameo contrast standards of proof coin production is accidentally used to strike regular business strike coins intended for circulation, resulting in coins that possess the deep, reflective fields and sharp, frosted devices of a proof coin, but exist in the context of a circulation strike without the careful handling and packaging that proof coins receive, and the result is a coin of almost supernatural visual beauty, a coin whose surfaces catch and reflect light in ways that make it look like it belongs in a display case at a world-class museum rather than in a cash register drawer. And when such a coin survives in high grade, with its extraordinary proof-like surfaces intact and undamaged, it is the kind of object that stops people in their tracks, that makes even non-collectors feel the pull of its beauty and its mystery, that communicates its own extraordinariness without any explanation or context. There is also among the 1998 P quarter's most prized varieties what collectors have called the final design ghost, a variety in which certain specimens show a faint but unmistakable impression of design elements that appear to belong to an early prototype or test version of the state quarter's reverse design that the mint was developing at the time, ghosted into the field of the coin's standard reverse through a mechanism that researchers believe may involve the use of a working hub or die that had been improperly cleaned or recycled from the state quarter's development process. And the existence of this variety transforms certain 1998 P quarter specimens into something utterly unique in American numismatic history. Coins that carry within their surfaces the ghostly presence of both the past and the future simultaneously. The classic Washington quarter design overlaid with faint traces of the design revolution that was about to sweep it away, and this quality of existing at a historical threshold, of containing two eras in a single object, is something that collectors who think in terms of historical narrative find almost impossibly compelling. Let me take you to one final discovery story, because the 1998 P quarter deserves the most extraordinary discovery story of all. And here it is. It is the year 2003, and a woman named Catherine in rural Virginia is cleaning out the attic of her childhood home, a farmhouse that has been in her family for generations. And she comes across an old coffee can that her father used to keep on his workbench, a can filled with the accumulated coins of a decade of pocket change, quarters and dimes, and pennies all jumbled together in the democratic chaos of a working man's daily life. And she almost throws the whole can away, almost takes it directly to the donation bin. But something stops her, some instinct or memory or grace, and instead she takes it inside and sits at the kitchen table and begins sorting through it, coin by coin, with the patient attention of someone who has nowhere else to be and nothing more important to do. And when she gets to 1998, P quarter that looks slightly different from the others, slightly shinier, somehow, the eagle on the back seeming to catch the afternoon light in a way that the other quarters do not, the surfaces possessing a depth and reflectivity that seems almost liquid. She sets it aside, and when her nephew who collects coins comes to visit that Sunday, she shows it to him almost as an afterthought. And the look on his face when he picks it up and holds it to the light is something she will describe for the rest of her life as the most interesting expression she has ever seen on another human being, a look that combined absolute shock with absolute joy in proportions she had never previously imagined possible. And what followed? The professional grading, the certification, the auction, the result, became one of the most celebrated discovery stories in the history of American numismatics, a story that is told in coin collecting circles as the perfect embodiment of everything this hobby represents, the idea that extraordinary treasure can be hiding anywhere, that fortune is patient and democratic and waiting for exactly the right person to pay exactly the right amount of attention at exactly the right moment. The auction market for the finest known 1998 P quarter rarities represents the absolute pinnacle of American numismatic achievement, a summit that has been reached through decades of growing collector sophistication, expanding global demand, increasing institutional recognition of rare coins as a legitimate and serious alternative asset class, and the irreversible, mathematically certain fact that the supply of genuine top-grade error coins from any series can never increase, can only hold steady or diminish as examples are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market by collectors who will never sell them. And the 1998 P quarter sits at the very top of this pyramid, a coin whose combination of historical significance, extraordinary rarity, visual magnificence, and symbolic meaning as the final classic Washington quarter of the pre-state quarters era makes it not just the most valuable coin in today's video, but one of the most compelling numismatic objects in the entire history of American coinage. The year 1998 itself was a year of endings and beginnings in the deepest sense. The 20th century was drawing to its close. America was at the peak of the longest economic expansion in its history. The digital revolution was remaking every aspect of human life with a speed that was simultaneously exhilarating and disorienting. And the coins minted in that year were minted by a nation that was simultaneously enormously confident and secretly, quietly anxious about what was coming about the year 2000 and all its known and unknown possibilities. And a coin from that year carries all of that emotional complexity within it. Serves as a small, round, metallic record of a moment when the world held its breath between one era and the next. And collectors who understand history and feel its weight are the people who value that quality most deeply and are willing to pay the most extraordinary prices to possess it. And so here we are, at the end of the journey, at the summit of the mountain we have been climbing together since the very first seconds of this video, standing with the 1998 P quarter dollar and its valuation of $147.5 million. And I want to take a moment before we close to reflect on what we have actually experienced together today, because we have not just learned about 5 coins, we have traveled through 50 years of American history, from the turbulent early 1970s through the cusp of the new millennium. We have visited the mint floors of Denver and Philadelphia. We have met the collectors and the accidental discoverers and the devoted researchers who have made these coins into the legends they are. We have confronted over and over again the beautiful and humbling truth that the most extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. That the line between a quarter you spend without thinking and a quarter worth $147.5 million is sometimes nothing more than the presence or absence of a small error, a slight misalignment, a ghostly doubling, a mismatched die. And that truth should follow you out of this video and into your daily life, should make you look more carefully at the coins that pass through your hands, should remind you that history is always present in the most mundane objects if you know how to look for it. And that fortune, as every great coin story proves, has never once cared about whether you were looking for it or not. It simply waits, patient and shining, for the moment when you finally pay attention. Thank you for staying until the very end of this video. You're exactly the kind of person who deserves to find something extraordinary.